When you're in the NICU, time moves differently. The machines beep constantly, doctors and nurses come and go, and as a parent, you're trying to hold on to every shred of hope. I know that feeling personally, the worry, the questions, the exhaustion, the deep desire to simply understand what's happening to your baby. Too often, families leave those experiences with more scars, more trauma than support. And that's why today's conversation is so important. I have a guest, Dr. Jess Daigle. She is a board certified pediatrician, but a NICU pediatrician, correct?
Yeah.
But not only is she a NICU pediatrician, she is her mom herself. Through her work at Mommy and Me MD, she's bridging the gap between communication between NICU families as well as the NICU staff. And through that, she helps parents feel heard, supported, empowered, and really get through some of the most overwhelming moments in their life. Welcome to Fourth Trimester Voices, the podcast where we delve deep into the fourth trimester. I'm your host, Dr. Choa. So thank you, Dr. Jess Daigle, for coming onto our show.
Thank you so much. Just one correction. It's just Mom and Me, MD.
Mom and me. This conversation is so needed, because I think about my own journey with my NICU baby and how traumatic that was and really transformed how I got through those initial postpartum years and just going into probably the first 3 years of her life. Share a little bit about your journey, took you into medicine and what led you to pediatrics and working in the NICU.
Yeah. So I have always wanted to be a doctor. I guess I would say at first, I always wanted to work with children. Let me back up to that. I always knew I wanted to work with children. I think every little kid goes through a phase where they think they might want to be a teacher, but
Right.
teachers are one of the first people you see, one of the first professions. Then it became interesting. I thought I would do child psychology because I was so interested in how kids learn. I used to watch the PBS channel and there was this developmental show working with kids. I was like, oh, that looks kind of interesting and cool. Right around the age of 10, I was into books about babies and just reading about babies. And I came across this book called The Long Dying of Baby Andrew. It's an autobiography of a family who talked about their micropreemie and their journey with medicine. It brought up the question of heroics in medicine, autonomy, agency, and quality of life. Should we be trying to save these micropreemies? The family wanted to let their baby die in peace without all these interventions. They felt like the hospital was doing too much. That was such a heavy book at that age. I don't think I realized it. Yeah, but I was like, but it was very fascinating. I was 10 to
Oh
11 years
my
old.
God.
I used to read all those kind of books. Right around that same time, though, my friend, his mom is a neonatologist, and she let me come into the NICU with her and
Mm.
see like a baby. And I was like so in love. And I was like, this is what I meant to do. I just remember the wonder of like a baby this little can live outside of a mom. You're young and you're just thinking like, it's
Mm.
amazing, like the science of it all. I thought it was a miracle, actually. At the time, I didn't understand the weight of prematurity, but I was in awe. Then I saw somebody that looked like me doing it. And so that was
Mm.
even more fantastic. So I went and researched it and I was like, okay, this is what I meant to do. I went through all my schooling. I got into medical school, then got into pediatrics residency. And then like the first year of residency, my intern year, I ended up having a miscarriage. And I
Mm.
always tell people, for me, that was like that sentinel event in my life. Like I had gone through things like when I was young. My mom has sickle cell. My dad suffered with substance abuse. Thankfully, he's free from that today. I had gone through things, so it wasn't like I had such an easy life growing up. But it was the first time that I felt it was something personal to me, something I like of my own, right? Like you can't help what family you were born into. You can't help like, parental circumstances. But I
Right.
feel like in your pregnancy, you always feel like, well, I thought I was doing the right things. Like I was eating right and trying to
Mm.
take care of my body. And then this happens. And then already being a physician, you learn about statistics. And then that was the first time I felt like the statistic that I had learned about in medicine. But it also, through that experience, helped me to really think about compassion and how it was managed, even how the miscarriage happened and the things with my OB, which, she's a fantastic lady, but I ended up having to have a talk with her about how I felt that transpired and what I felt could have been different. And it just opened my eyes into how we manage our patients and how we interact with them. So then I get pregnant again, and I was considered high risk because, you have a miscarriage. I was doing some extra funneling, a little bit of preterm labor. So they have you see like the maternal fetal medicine doctors. And I was started having some of them same early labor symptoms right again around like 20, 21 weeks. And I was like, oh no, having a miscarriage was traumatic. I really had undergone something traumatic, and I hadn't thought of it like that. And I don't think until recently that people started recognizing those things as trauma, because things can be common. We can just say, oh, these are just things that people endure, but it doesn't take the trauma out of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I get pregnant again, and she's like, okay, well, you have to be on bed rest. And so I'm on bed rest in the hospital for 9 weeks, like
Oh,
63 days in the hospital. Oh, goodness. And there was some challenges through that. I got steroids twice. A couple of times we had scares thinking we were going to deliver. But 31 weeks came, and I told her, oh no, he's coming this time. I could feel the difference in my body. I knew we had gotten as far as we were going to go, and which I'm grateful for. He's here today. I was in the NICU for 5 weeks and going through that whole thing, just like the other families, like, leaving your baby and wondering, like, is he gonna get necrotized enterocolitis and all the things. People often ask me, like, was it better being the doctor in the NICU already? And I was like, the thing that made it easier, just that I understood what the NICU was already. I didn't have to, like, it wasn't a foreign place to me, and I knew what things meant, conditions and definitions, and nothing had to be explained in terms of why we were doing things because I knew the medicine. It was
right.
more the emotional side of it. Oh my gosh, which I think takes a lot of people by surprise because you don't really know what kind of parent you're going to be.
Absolutely. Girl, I tell people that when I realize how not put together, like if you put me in I'm an ER doc, put me in the
Yeah.
ER, I am protocolized. You will see somebody you will never have seen. But when I was in that NICU, when I tell you I was broken, crying, emotional, I couldn't even commute. I didn't even, I was just getting by, right? And so
Yeah.
you don't know how
Yeah.
that pressure environment is going to affect you.
I mostly had moments of breakdown, mostly when it was leaving him. I remember one time I had to go with my husband somewhere. We had to do something with his business, and I had to travel with him. And I remember being like, no, he's going to know I didn't go and I didn't show up. And, all the things that you go through, like you really have those thoughts because you're already like, well, they already don't live with you. So you feel guilty that you're living a life outside of what they're dealing with, right? Like my baby's in here in this NICU trying to grow, trying to live, and I'm out here going on a trip. But that's the way you tell yourself these things like I'm just not even I'm doing the bare minimum, even though I was pumping around the clock and all the things. And this is why I'm so passionate about the discharge home process. I remember thinking, oh, I just need to get my baby home. Whereas
Right.
in NICU families, just like, we just got to get him home. But getting home was challenging. He had to go back on a feeding tube. I didn't have the familial support I needed. And my residency program wasn't all about, hey, let us support you. It was business as usual.
Coming back.
Yes, business as usual. This is why I'm running late. I'm trying to explain to the feeding people how to run the pump on the tube and run the feeding tube on the pump. I was just going through a lot, and it made me understand that if I was having all them challenges and I knew what to do in medicine,
Right.
and I still was scared. I had 911 scares because he was choking, people calling 911, the caregivers, and I'm having to run from my hospital job to the house because, EMS is there. I went through all of that, just afraid. Like, is he going to
Right.
make it to the next day? Like, would he have gone through all that to aspirate at home? That was my fear. So
Mm,
I get what people are going through, and I feel like we can do better to let families know there can still be challenges, and these are ways to manage them and the importance of building your support village as best you can.
absolutely. Now, I can see that your experience definitely inspired. It's almost profound how you went through that experience, but you were already in a pediatric residency, right? And then you end up having a NICU baby, and now you work in the NICU and you have seen the challenges that exist, particularly with communication. And
Yes.
now you get to be on the other side and advocate for moms. What an amazing full circle moment. You are living in your purpose. That's so wonderful.
So,
One of the things I really think about when I'm listening to you is just all the challenges that exist for moms. One of them is, how do you leave your child and feel
yeah.
okay going to take a bath and leaving the hospital? How do you deal with the emotional challenges that come up? And then how do you go from the experience of mom to mom and caregiver, depending on what condition your
Yes.
child has? How do you guide moms through some of these challenges?
The first thing that is so important is to validate. You have to acknowledge that people are having these challenges. You'll be surprised how so many people are very dismissive of people's lived experiences, like suck it up, buttercup kind of energy. People are going to get through it because we have to, but it doesn't mean that they don't need compassion and care along the way. And so I validate first, even when like someone texts me, well, one of my families who has signed up in my practice had texted me a picture of, I guess, another NICU family they know's baby who was refluxing out of the nose. And I remember when I first saw the picture, I thought that was her baby. And I was like, is this an old picture? Save the baby. And then she was like, no, this is right now. She just sent me this picture. And I was like, okay, first, validate. I know this is scary. This is scary to see milk coming out of your baby's nose, that they up here choking and you think they're about to die, like right at this moment. That's very scary. Then you say, okay, this is what you do in this moment with this situation, right?
Mm,
So I tell them, hey, your baby is gonna, you may have these challenges with babies, with preemies. Explain, I try to educate them a little bit more about, even
mm,
though these things are concerning, they're not out of the norm, meaning that we expect some challenges because of the fact that they're early and they're trying to grow. Because I think that's the other thing is understanding that we tend to internalize things when our kids do stuff. I do it now. My kids are 12 and 7. My son don't, miss a homework assignment. I be figuring it out, it was my fault somehow. I should have reminded him to do
right.
that assignment. But he old enough and he know what he got to do, right? In the context of a preemie, they were born early. It's not your fault. It's not their fault. It's just an is thing at this point, right? So really helping to remove the focus from a guilty place, start to move to an empowering place. Hey, I know that this is happened, but this is what you can do. Because if we stay stuck, one of the things I think is worse is staying stuck in those feelings of inadequacy, of guilt, of I'm not enough, I'm not doing right. Because then you can't see anything else, right? It's like a cloud over you. It's like
Absolutely.
you can't see. But if you say, let me move these cobwebs out of the way and say, hey, but this is what you can do. You can take care of your baby. You can connect with your baby. You should take your shower. You do need time. I told a family recently I was around and I said, you taking care of yourself is taking care of your baby. And
Mm,
she looked like, I never thought of it like that. I was like, what about it? Think about when you was pregnant. Taking care of yourself was taking care of that baby.
mm,
Feeding yourself was feeding your baby, right? Getting rest,
right.
helping your baby. And so that's still true even when they're outside of you, like you being restful, put you in a better place mentally. So that way, when your baby is crying, you're looking at it differently. If you're coming from a tired place, you're frustrating versus, okay, I understand my baby. So let me see what they need then. And you're not internalizing it. So I really try to go from a place of validating to educating to empowering. I do that in cycles because those things are important because I do it for myself. If I'm
Right.
even upset, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna validate this feeling that I'm in. I really think we need to honor the emotions. We make ourselves feel so guilty about so much instead of saying, I'm mad, and that's okay. I'm
Mm,
mad, I'm angry, I'm disappointed, I'm hurt. Name that emotion and then say, okay, so what can I do about it then? Okay, well, I have a plan. Okay, my baby's doing this. Well, let me seek help. Let me advocate and get the help I need. Let me ask some questions, right? You move out of that stuck place to action that usually moves you forward. Even if it's just you learn something a little bit more
yeah.
about your baby. That's really how I help families through that because we're all doing it. And then again, let them know they're not alone. Like all of us have these feelings, these thoughts, I think, even when you're not a NICU parent, just being a parent.
Mhm.
And then just having the NICU baby brings on the more challenge of the medical piece and the
Right.
fears of will my baby do okay and be okay. You would be amazed at just validating where someone is already helps them, I think, get to a better place. They start to see themselves differently, which is so important.
Absolutely. How do you navigate the needs that come up? For example, I think about being a doctor, going through a NICU experience, and then getting home and realizing that, oh gosh, the feeding situation is terrible. I don't know how to feed my baby, I guess, or my breasts don't work because
Mhm.
my baby was in the NICU, so my milk didn't come in. And
Yeah.
then thinking about the mental health aspect of things
Yeah.
and just being in the storm, right? And so I wonder if there's a way you are your NICU pediatrician, and so you have a passion for this, but how do we get moms in the hospital to be prepared for the storm that comes in the
Yeah.
postpartum period? Because you and I know
Yeah.
it is a storm because once you leave those hospital doors, they sent me home with a child who was breathing fast. And I
Yeah.
watched her all day and all night. It was so lonely and so traumatic. I just
Yeah.
wonder if we could be doing more to prepare moms
Yes.
for this period. And what do
Yeah.
you do with your clients?
Yeah. I love that. So it's interesting because I'm actually applying for this grant that Merck for Moms has out right now to do like this trauma-informed family-centered care, maternal mental health for NICU families in Georgia kind of program that I want to pilot.
Right.
And it is looking at the fact that while the families are in the NICU, it becomes a challenge because their focus is so much on what's going on with the baby. Even as much as you can tell them, hey, you need to look out for yourself, they're still struggling and wrestling with that guilt. It becomes then planting seeds. And after talking with the president, the current president of Postpartum Support International Georgia chapter, we said what probably becomes important is leaning into the village that's around that family, the
Mhm.
partner, auntie, the grandma, whoever's there, or asking them, who is your support person that you have? And maybe starting to educate them on ways that they could support the mom because they're not so closely involved, but I think they have it's like another layer back, right? It's like if you're in line, of course, the mom and parents then like grandparents, aunties, they're back here. So they're still invested, but they're able to kind of see a little bit different, right? Their focus is a little different because whenever you're like right now, I was doing something with First Candle where we were going to the NICU, we're going to the Grady NICU, doing these NICU talks about safe sleep. And
Mm.
I remember, saying, well, when the families are here visiting, they are wanting to focus on their babies. Even the people that I got to come in, I had to catch right when they were leaving, like, hey, can you come in? And we would chat for 10 to 15 minutes. Because while they're there, they're already dealing with guilt about being separated. Anything that they feel is going to take away from that, then that adds on to like, oh, I shouldn't have been spending time doing that. I should have been with my baby. They don't feel like they even deserve to focus on themselves. They know they're struggling. They will acknowledge their mental health, but it's almost like we take on this martyr approach. I need to suffer to pay penance for what happened. No, for real. Like
True.
you think my baby's suffering, so I need to have a little suffering too. Like I feel like they think like that. And I feel like the people who do go, they already were set up into some type of counseling. So they were predisposed to depression or anxiety. They were already seeing someone and they just kept that session going because they were already integrated, as opposed to maybe you didn't have any dealings with it, or maybe you had anxiety, but you were self managing. And now this NICU experience comes and blows all that wide open. People that have never been depressed before deal with these depressions and anxiety. I didn't really think of myself as a depressed person. I'm pretty happy go lucky, but I had
Right.
moments of extreme sadness and things like that, right? So I think while they're in the NICU, you plant the seed. What we should do is have people in units like that are like social work, like psychologists, social workers that are trained in perinatal mental health that kind of can check in and say, hey, I'm just coming to check on you. How are you handling this experience? Start making maybe a check-in, even if it's a 5-10 minute check-in in the unit. Having somebody to talk to, even in small increments, has been helpful. So they'll continue it going. That's the mental health piece. The other piece for preparing for good storage home, I think in general in the unit, we can do better to start helping families build their resources and their empowerment. When you're getting ready to go home, a lot of times the doctors decide and then the next day the baby's going home. I try to give people a couple of days heads up. Oh, hey, guess what? The baby's eating all their bottles. We've done this, we've done that. And I actually hold on to babies two more days to get the families time. I ask the families, I'm like, hey, I'm thinking your baby might be going home in a couple of days. Do you need to get some things situated? Like if they have other children, if they working and like they maybe Friday is better and it's Wednesday. Technically, I could like legally say I'm still observing this baby because they are still learning to eat. Some things are still happening. So I think we could do better in that regard. Like, don't okay, they've eaten the bottles for one full day or 2 days, and now they want to discharge them. No, give the families 2 or 3 days to get acclimated, get themselves together. I think that's how we should do that. But
Absolutely.
along the way, I think like soon as they're admitted, they should be given like a book. That's why I like the NICU notebook code, how she created a journal, helping families document their journey along the way, the milestones, medications, changes, whatever. By the time discharge happens, it's like trying to study for a test the night before. You need to have acclimated that information along the way, be like little nuggets. So then they feel empowered. Like, no, I know my baby. I know why they've had this surgery. I know why they require this medication. I know this is the cardiologist they're going to see, and that empowers them to know their child, and it makes it a little bit easier. You're not going to be able to erase all of the anxiety of taking a baby home because again, they were sick, they were
Right.
separated. Sick and separated makes anybody anxious, and especially the longer they've been in the NICU, now you're used to that being like your home, right? But there are things we could be doing to empower them and plant those seeds that you're not alone all along the way. And I think that's one of the ways we could do better.
Absolutely. Tell us about your Mom and Me programs and what you can offer for a mom who is maybe in the thick of being in the NICU, or maybe they have a condition that they already know the baby's going to have and will already spend that time in the NICU. What type of services do you offer for them?
Yeah. So I originally started my business to help families in the fourth trimester. So kind of some of what you even do. And then I started to realize like I really love like just working with NICU families. A lot of NICU families feel lost when they're coming home. So I
Mm,
transitioned to helping NICU families bridge that transition. So I worked with a couple of families then, because again, that same thing, like you just don't know how long you're gonna be in the NICU. They might be like, well, I may not be there that long, or I might be there months, and how is this gonna help me? So I've had a resource where if people wanted to do consultations, I've had people meet with me and say, hey, this is my story, or this is what happened to my baby. Is this good? Is this right? Do I need to be asking for anything else? So I've done that. And I've had families who have signed up. And this is why I'm transitioning my current model to a membership based practice, because one of my last families was like, they wanted to extend it past like the 3 month. They was like, well, no, we still got some things we're tracking. We want to be able to still keep talking to you and following the growth. That's where I got the idea. We were talking about really reassessing your services and what does your customer and client really need? The whole point of this is to meet the needs that people have. That's when I got the idea. Like, okay, well, like almost like follow-up clinic, but a little bit more high touch, because they do have local follow-up clinics. But I've even heard from those families that sometimes it's like get in there, you still have questions when you leave. You can't really talk to the NICU anymore. Your pediatrician may or may not be as invested in the details of it, because that's what was with that family. They had their own pediatrician, but I was going to walk with them through the preemie specific issues and like do all the tweaking the feeds and doing the volumes, and I was doing all that math that you still would happen in the NICU. I was able to bring the NICU experience home to them in a sense where they had that. Oh, okay, hey, we need to talk to you. So I would hop on a video call. We would chat about something, and it would save them from going, oh, now I got to go just make an appointment to pediatrician just for me to tell me that this is fine, like, and they really wanted that reassurance. And that's what they told me, that peace of mind was the biggest piece. When I was thinking about marketing, like, how do you market peace of mind, even though that is really what they want? Like, they want to know I have somebody trusted and reliable that's going to help me feel comfortable about taking care of my preemie baby at home. And so that's what I'm offering. And I'm actually switching that up and getting ready to roll that out for January because I really want to be able to have families and build community with the families that sign up and do workshops, kind of similar to what you're doing for the moms who are pregnant, but for NICU families, even if we just have the local therapists come and talk about dealing with some of the
Emotions and trauma
disorders
in
and things.
labor.
NICU families need community, just like moms in the fourth trimester. Everybody that's going through life changes needs community. So that's what I offer. Either one-on-one consultations, they just had a question. Like I had one mom and Emory that the NICU had wanted to get a PIC line and she just was not trusting it. I was able to talk with her through why we do that. And she felt comfortable and let them do it. She wanted to talk to somebody she felt she could connect with and trust. The interesting thing is, I didn't know her before that, but I still was able to build the rapport of, I get where you're coming from. Again, that's that validation. I can meet somebody in 1 day, 2 days, and the family will tell me they trust me, and I've only talked to them for 2 days. But it was the intentional of, I see you. I understand why you're worried. You're not crazy. In medicine, we do that. We're very like, if you don't want to do what we want, that's it.
That's
Move
it.
on.
Take that.
No, you can't treat
Then we
people
don't
like
take,
that.
and then we don't take the time to explain things, especially for procedural things and big decisions.
Yeah.
We tend to minimize that.
Yes, we do.
It's really important to take that time to listen. I wish everybody had that back pocket person or doctor or
Yeah.
advocate to be like, let me run it by so and
Yeah.
so. A lot of times people feel pressured to make decisions. It
Do.
doesn't mean the procedure is bad. They just want to understand.
And it's their right to. We've made it so that if people want to ask questions, like being belligerent, especially in our community, it's like we're being difficult. I remember having somebody tell me that one time, and I was like, "Well, why you labeled them difficult? Why,
Right.
why it can't be that they just want to know more?
Want to
Like,
know more.
anybody else, like anybody else should be considered inquisitive. Look at that. They want to understand, be well informed. Like our culture is like, oh no, they just being difficult, belligerent. Like,
Yeah.
no, they just want to understand. And then there is some trauma there. So you again understand who you're dealing with. There's trauma there. I had a mom like this last week. I had connected with her. Like, it's funny because I travel do locums. And
Mhm.
so I seen her maybe like 3 weeks ago, and I ended up back in the same place. And I was like, what are the chances that she's coming back into the ER on the day that I'm there? And the ER calls and they're like, yeah, she will not let us do a cath on the baby. Baby had fever. She's like 30 something, it's like, oh, we have to get a UA. And I was like, I bet you she'll let me get that cath. And the guy was like, okay, I mean, it's two of us she done told no to. I'm like, and
Okay.
sure enough, I saw her. I said, hey, you didn't have to come back to the ER to try to see me. She was like, that's funny. She said, I was actually going to call up there and see if you was at
Oh,
work. It was so funny. And I was like, hey, they told me that you didn't want to get this done. Would you tell me why? What's going on? And she told me what happened with her other child. I said, I understand how that could be scary.
mm,
And I really didn't agree with the way that they had did that anyway. And I was like, well, how about you? Would you be okay if I did it? I will personally take responsibility for this procedure. She said, I trust you. That's it. Nothing else. She asked nothing else. Nothing else because she knew I had established that rapport with her the last time of seeing her, explaining things to her. Even the last time she told me, she's like, "You're the first person to even explain to me why we was doing this treatment." And I'm like, I know she's not lying because I done had other people tell me that.
mm,
Like people just want you to do what they want you to do. I'm the doctor because I said so. No, sorry, parental medicine is no more. People are well informed now. Even if
right.
they don't necessarily understand everything, they can go and read the same thing we can.
Mm.
So they're coming to us for guidance and the expertise at this point, not because they can't read the same stuff we've learned.
Well, I want you to tell us about something really exciting. I know you just wrote a book. Yes. Having a book, honestly. Yay! Oh, wait, put it up. Let me put it again because it's blurred out a little bit. There it
So,
is. Move
oh
it to your
goodness.
face a little bit.
Oh, right
There you go. Anchored in
here.
hope. And it's emotional,
Yay!
So please tell us a little bit about it.
Yes.
I wish I would have had something like that going through a hard time.
Yeah.
Just affirmations. One of the
Yeah.
that I feel like helped me through life, and I maybe not necessarily through the NICU journey, but through
I got
life,
you. Yeah.
is just a good word, right?
Yes.
Good.
Thank you so much. So I got inspired to write this. It was like December 8th. I was like in my own devotion because I do devotions. In the front of this book, I talk about how I've always done devotionals since I was young. I used to do the chicken soup for the
Oh, I
soul
love
book. I
those.
still have mine. I'm 41. I still have my.
You do it with your daughter, your kid,
No, I need to. I didn't know if they still make those. I've bought them other little devotionals. I
oh,
do the one by Sarah. I can't think of her last name, but I bought one for the boy and the girl. And so we've done them together. But I didn't even know if they still made the chicken soup for the soul. I'm gonna have to look into that now that you say that. I always believed in the importance of being able to write how I thought or felt in any circumstance. Journaling saved me. I've been a Christian from young, so I always grew up knowing about the Bible. And I remember just even in my own circumstances, especially when I was in the NICU, wondering, how does this apply in my situation? Because that's the thing, right? God's word can be kind of abstract to you, like, okay, well, I know that these scriptures, but what about in my frustration with having my baby in the NICU? Or what about my fear that he's not going to live? Like, how is that alive and well for me? And
mm,
so whenever I was going through just one of my own devotions that I do, it just came to me. NICU families need a devotional. NICU parents need a place to process what they're
mm.
going through. And I went to look, I was like, well, let me see if they already have some. Because, sometimes you think you're like the novel idea, and then you're like, oh, somebody else is not. Not that that would mean that I wouldn't need to do it, but you're like, hey, it never occurred to me to see if somebody else does do that.
Right.
And everything was like a journal for documenting the baby's journey, milestones, vitals, or conditions. But most of it wasn't like geared toward the parents saying, how are you dealing with this journey? Right. Like, and so, which we already know, even in maternal health, right? Everything was the baby. Like, that's
Right.
why with the 4 trimester, like, that's why it's so good to see so many people out there saying, what about the mom? And even including the dads and other people, like, how is everybody dealing with these changes? I got up and I started writing right then and there. And it was just like, it just kept developing, kept developing. I worked on my playlist. I took all my music that
Oh,
I listened to and I separated it into themes. And I was like, oh, and I can give them a playlist. It was just so much
I
that was
love
coming
it.
out of me.
Love it so
Yeah,
much.
we went through my favorite scriptures, and then I was like, what are some scriptures that speak to peace and hope in case there were some that I hadn't come across? I just started writing, and I was like, well, I wanted to be a real reflection of, well, what would a NICU family who is looking at this scripture about rest, like what makes them feel restless? And so then I wanted to write, like, these are the things they're dealing with, because I wanted it to be reflective of like people's real journeys. Because one of the things about the NICU is like everybody can be in the NICU, but no two experiences are the same. I wanted to capture things that like most families will feel, but then speak to some things like somebody dealing with intestinalitis or a baby having hydronephrosis or hydrocephalus or because I
Absolutely.
wanted something where somebody could say, "Oh, that was my." I want to be able to capture that, so that's what I really tried to do through it. But build hope, and I said anchors because when I think of going through this journey, you need a way to feel secure. You want to feel like you're not being tossed away and swept
Right.
away. For me, hope is that anchor. I believe things can get better, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's always going to be exactly what you think. I talk about that too, because sometimes some people's journeys don't end the same way. And
Mm,
sometimes there is death involved. And I acknowledge that there will be loss for some people. They still have hope. Think about the people who start foundations in their babies' names. Like, to me, that's so powerful. It's because, like, they didn't let their story end, with their child leaving this earth. They still keeping them present and inspiring hope in other people through their organizations. And I just think that those people are so amazing. It was designed to help families through the journey so they know that they're not alone. I believe that God is with us even in those hard times. And I want to share that belief with others.
oh, so amazing. I honestly love meeting people who live their faith, right? You walking in your light, walking in your purpose, and this is what God has destined for
Yeah.
you. This is what you're
Yeah.
supposed to do. I can hear it in how you
Yeah.
talk.
Well,
No, it's beautiful. We are given stories for a purpose, and your
agree.
experience from the minute you were born up until now, your story has purpose. You have purpose, and I
Yeah.
hope that your book can continue to inspire people who
Yeah.
need it in some of their darkest times. I wish you well, and my hope is that
You.
anybody who's listening to this may know that there's
Yeah.
support out there for you.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and
Not
if
alone.
Yes, girl. And
God.
if they have to reach you and want to talk to you and
Yeah.
maybe, work with you, how can they contact you?
They can go to my Instagram at Mom and Me MD. I have a link there where they can like click on any of the like services there, the resources with meeting with me. And then my site, I have a site that's up, but I'm revamping it. So people will look up momandmemd.com and my site will come up, but I'm revamping like those services and things like that. I was like, maybe I should pause the site, but at least they get to read about it for now and
Yeah,
see. They could reach out to me and I read my DMs. So if somebody DM me and they're not like with something, shady, if they're like, hey, I'm a real person that's got this going on, I don't mind being like, hey, this is what I advise you to do, and I don't like give like medical advice, but I do say, hey, yes, that is something that you should seek help for. And this is a person that can help you, even if it's not me. I'm more at peace helping people find the next step, whatever's going to help them move forward. That's what I'm about.
absolutely. Well, I love it. So many good resources. Thank you so much for
Thank
coming on the
you.
show, Mom. I hope you are inspired and please,
Just so they
please.
know they're not alone. God loves them. I love them. Even if I've never met you, I just love people. I have so much fun at work, just sitting there and talking with people and letting them know that they are seen. Even if you feel alone, reach out. There's somebody there. There's help available.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Doc,
Thank
for coming
you.
on the show. It was lovely.
You too, love.
All right. Let me stop that. Are you navigating pregnancy and postpartum alone? Are you feeling overwhelmed by the lack of support? You're not alone, and you don't have to do this alone. With EM Care, I offer personalized in home and telemedicine support designed to guide moms through the challenges of the postpartum period. Whether you need total on call services or periodic check ins in the home, I help women recognize warning signs and I support you as your advocate, and I am here for you the entire step of the way. I want to create a postpartum plan that's all about you, your health, and your recovery. Follow me on Instagram at Dr. Choa for tips, resources, and to book me. DM me or email me if you have any other questions. I'm on all social media platforms under Dr. Choa, DrChowa. Let's build a village of support. Let's give you the hopes you need to get through this period of time. Take care. My name is Dr. Choa, and it's been lovely talking with you all today. Take care.